If 1% of humanity owns more than half the world, what are the rest of us really working for? Perhaps the cruelest trick of this world is not merely its inequality, but the illusion that those born at the bottom can one day claim the lives reserved for those at the top. It's not the existence of power that enslaves the many. It's the belief that, with enough sacrifice, they too might one day possess it. Since the dawn of civilization, the one constant, the unbroken, unchallenged law of human existence is this: the few rule, the many serve. The names of the systems change: monarchies, republics, democracies, capitalist utopias, but beneath every flag, every anthem, every holy text lies the same primitive structure: power at the top, labor at the bottom. And in the modern age, the mechanism of that control is money. Money is no longer a tool. It is a metaphysical force. It defines the limits of your reality. It dictates the range of your choices. It assigns value to your time, your body, even your suffering. And the cruel elegance of it is that you participate willingly. You wake up each morning, chase paper, call it ambition, pay your debts, and believe you're free because your cage is invisible. The tragedy isn't that you're exploited. It's that you defend your exploitation. You believe in hard work, in meritocracy, in justice. You convince yourself that if you labor with discipline, if you budget wisely, if you obey the arbitrary rules of the system, you'll be rewarded. But systems are not built to liberate. They're built to perpetuate themselves. The financial order you serve was designed long before you existed by men whose descendants you'll never meet. And it runs on the disposable energy of people like you. And whether you accept this or deny it makes no difference. It is what it is. The great philosophers understood this. Nietzsche called it the will to power, the inevitable instinct of the strong to dominate the weak. Schopenhauer saw it as the blind striving of existence itself, indifferent to justice, mercy, or meaning. And you've been conditioned to believe in fairness inside a system built on extraction. This isn't tragedy. This isn't injustice. This is the natural order. You are not outside it. You are within it, a financial serf, wearing your debt like jewelry, selling your hours like cheap merchandise, living inside a machine so ancient, so absolute, it no longer needs guards at the gates, because it lives inside your mind. And unless you learn to see it, to name it, to strategize within it, it will consume you. See, back in the medieval ages, serfs were the property of the land they toiled on. Bound by law and custom, they lived and died within the borders of their lord's estate. They couldn't leave, couldn't own property, couldn't seek a better life. They were human tools, designed for the enrichment of their masters. And here's the uncomfortable truth: nothing's changed. The fields look different, the castles are now skyscrapers, and the lords drive Lamborghinis. But the structure, the essence, the brutal, soul-crushing hierarchy, it's still intact. You, dear listener, are a financial serf. You think you own your time? You don't. It belongs to your employer. The hours you trade for paper currency are nothing but your modern-day indenture. You think that paycheck buys you freedom? It buys you a temporary illusion, a brief respite from the anxiety of unpaid bills and empty fridges. The moment that money hits your account, it's already spoken for. Rent, utilities, taxes, debts, obligations, and the carefully marketed temptations designed to siphon the rest. You are not earning a living. You are servicing your captivity. Let's talk about money. Not the cutesy motivational quotes about financial literacy you see on Instagram. I mean money as power. Money as the single most consequential invention in human history. Not because it allows us to buy things, but because it allows a small minority to rule over the majority without ever raising a sword. A serf in 1320 knew his chains. He could see them. He could touch the rusted iron around his wrists. Your chains are invisible. They're credit card debt. They're student loans. They're mortgages you'll never pay off. They're 9-to-5s that bleed your youth dry, leaving you too exhausted to build anything for yourself. And you participate willingly because you've been programmed since birth to believe this is normal, that this is the price of civilization, that if you just hustle harder, if you just budget better, if you manifest the right energy, you too can be free. You will not, because the game is rigged, has been, always will be. The elite, the modern lords of capital, understood one thing long before the masses did. Whoever controls money controls behavior, and whoever controls behavior controls everything. They don't need to tell you what to do. They just need to make it financially inconvenient to resist. You don't need a king decreeing your servitude when your rent is due and your landlord doesn't accept rebellion as payment. And what's worse, you, like your medieval counterpart, defend the very system that exploits you. You celebrate billionaires. You idolize influencers who flaunt lifestyles funded by your attention. You vote for politicians owned by the highest bidder, convinced you have a say. You pay taxes religiously while the rich hoard their wealth offshore. You buy the latest gadgets, subscribe to mind-numbing entertainment, and drown your existential dread in fast food and pharmaceuticals. Philosophers from Aristotle to Marx warned us about this. Aristotle spoke of the corruption of democracy into oligarchy when wealth concentrates into the hands of a few. Marx called it the inevitable consequence of capitalism's internal contradictions. But you don't need to read dense political theory to understand it. Just look around. If your labor barely covers your existence while others multiply their money by owning your labor, you are a serf. Now, some of you will resist this idea. But I have a good job. I make decent money. I'm saving for a house. And to that I say, congratulations, you're a well-fed serf. Your collar is velvet, but it's still a collar. Your cage is spacious, but it's still a cage. The measure of your freedom is not how comfortable your captivity is, but whether you can opt out of the system without starving. Can you stop working today and sustain your existence indefinitely? No? Then you are a serf. Let's entertain a deeper philosophical lens. Nietzsche spoke of the herd mentality, the tendency of the masses to adopt the values imposed upon them by their masters. You've been conditioned to value employment, to worship productivity, to believe that your worth is directly tied to your economic output. Leisure is guilted, poverty is criminalized, wealth is deified. And in this moral framework, your suffering becomes your own fault, not the system's. What is poverty in modern society? It's not just the absence of money, it's the absence of options. It's a structural design feature of financial serfdom. The poor exist to remind the serfs what happens if they disobey, if they fail, if they stop complying. Poverty is the guillotine hanging over your head, ensuring you keep your head down and your hands busy. Meanwhile, the rich don't labor, they own. And ownership is the purest form of power. Not because it gives you things, but because it gives you leverage. A landlord doesn't need to know your name to own your life. An investor doesn't need to punch a clock to make a living. They collect rent from your effort, interest from your desperation, dividends from your consumption. The ultimate tragedy is not that this system exists, but that most of you will die defending it. Now, before you spiral into nihilism, understand this. Awareness is power. The first step out of any captivity is recognizing you're in one. And while the system is designed to keep you compliant, it cannot stop you from thinking, from questioning, from strategizing. Financial serfdom survives because it isolates you, keeps you ignorant, and convinces you that escape is impossible. It isn't. Difficult, yes. Unlikely, sure. But impossible? Never. Here's the inconvenient advice nobody selling courses will tell you: you will not escape by working harder, or budgeting better, or manifesting abundance. You will escape by shifting your relationship to money. By understanding that labor is the least valuable form of wealth creation in this system. Ownership is the only currency of the free. Acquire assets, not liabilities. Control revenue streams, not wages. Build equity, not resumes. The rich aren't rich because they work. They're rich because their money works for them, multiplied through networks, investments, and inherited privilege. I can already hear the skeptics. But not everyone can be rich. The system needs workers. Precisely. And the system prefers you stay one. And no, this isn't a call to overthrow capitalism. It's a call to master it, to play the game better than those who wrote the rules. The irony is, the rules are not secret. They're written in plain sight. But your financial serfdom depends on you being too exhausted, too entertained, or too disillusioned to read them. Ask yourself, who benefits from your ignorance? Who profits from your complacency? Who gets rich every time you settle for survival instead of strategizing for sovereignty? The system is ancient, refined over millennia. It has weathered revolutions, plagues, wars, and collapses, but it has one eternal vulnerability. It needs your participation. Stop participating mindlessly. Start learning how money actually moves. Study the tax codes, understand credit, learn about trusts, investments, syndicates, and shell corporations. Not because you're going to become a billionaire overnight, but because the moment you understand the game, you stop being a pawn. You might still have to play, but you'll play with your eyes open. And that, dear listener, is the beginning of your liberation. Financial serfdom is not just about money. It's about your mind, about your values, about what you think is possible for yourself. As long as you believe your only path to stability is lifelong labor under someone else's terms, you are shackled. Break the chain at its weakest link. Belief. Believe that ownership is within your reach, that wealth is not a moral judgment, but a skill set, that you have every right to exit the plantation, acquire land, build systems, and insulate yourself from the whims of lords you'll never meet. In closing, understand this. Money is not the root of evil. The ignorance of how it governs your life is. And the systems built to keep you financially subservient don't fear your complaints. They fear your competence. Get competent and burn your collar.